I can speak, Dad." The words fell from the little girl's lips like fragile glass shattering in the wind. For 5 long years, the world had never heard her voice. 5 years of silence, of tears buried behind her eyes, of nights where her father prayed just to hear her whisper his name. And now, here in the park, beneath the swirl of golden autumn leaves, she had spoken. The millionaire froze, his breath caught in his chest, his heart pounding like it had waited for this moment forever. His polished shoes sank heavy into the path as emotion clouded his vision. This was the miracle he thought would never come. Around them, laughter echoed from swings. The smell of roasted chestnuts drifted through the air. But he heard nothing, saw nothing, only her trembling lips, her wide eyes filled with courage. He squeezed her hand tight, afraid the moment would vanish. And then, it happened. A stranger sat quietly on a bench, a notebook open on his lap. When his eyes lifted and met hers, something inside her stirred, as if her voice had been waiting for him all along. The stranger didn't smile. He didn't wave. He simply watched the notebook in his lap as if the pages themselves whispered secrets no one else could hear. The little girl's eyes lingered on him, her father tugging gently at her hand. "Come on, sweetheart," he murmured, trying to steer her toward the swings. But she resisted, her tiny frame rooted to the ground. It was as if her silence, her prison, recognized something in him. Her father frowned, his instincts stirring unease. Who was this man? Why was his presence so heavy, so magnetic, like a storm cloud waiting to break? The stranger finally looked up, his gaze sharp yet sorrowful, and for a fleeting moment the air between them changed. The laughter of the park faded. The breeze held its breath. The little girl, who had never spoken a word in public, felt her lips part. She wanted to say something, anything, but no sound came. Not yet, still. Her silence had found its echo. Her father's grip tightened as he led her toward the bench. His voice was low, steady, but sharp. "Do you know us?" he demanded, his eyes narrowing. The stranger didn't flinch. He closed the notebook slowly, fingers brushing the cover as though sealing away a secret. "Not yet," the man said softly, "but I know her." The father's pulse spiked. He stepped in front of his daughter, shielding her small frame. "What do you mean you know her?" he snapped. The stranger's gaze shifted past him, settling on the girl. His tone carried both weight and sorrow, the silence in her eyes. "I've seen it before. It's not weakness, it's survival." The father froze. His daughter clutched his sleeve, staring up at the man with wide, unblinking eyes. For the first time, someone had spoken words that touched the truth of her world. And as the park grew eerily still, the father realized this was no chance meeting. It was the beginning of something far darker and far greater. The stranger leaned back on the bench, his eyes fixed on the trembling leaves above. "When I was her age," he began, voice low, steady, almost breaking. "I didn't speak either. Not because I couldn't, but because no one wanted to listen." The father stiffened, every instinct telling him to pull his daughter away. Yet something in the man's tone kept him rooted. "I learned to hide my words," the man continued, his gaze shifting to the little girl, "because the world only gave me silence in return." The girl's small hand loosened from her father's sleeve. Her brown eyes widened, locking onto his, as though she understood every unspoken truth. The father swallowed hard, shaken. "Why are you here?" he demanded, his voice breaking with more fear than authority. The man's jaw clenched. His reply came like thunder cloaked in grief. "Because history repeats itself, unless someone breaks it." The father's grip on his daughter's hand tightened, his heart pounding against his ribs. "You speak as if you know us," he snapped, trying to mask his unease. The stranger's lips curved into the faintest, bitter smile. "Know you?" he murmured, shaking his head slowly. "I've known your family longer than you've been alive." The father froze, his breath catching in his throat. The park around them seemed to fall silent, every sound swallowed by the weight of those words. The little girl tilted her head, eyes locked on the man with unblinking curiosity. Her pencil slipped from her grasp, rolling across the bench. The stranger picked it up gently, holding it as though it were something sacred. "Your father once silenced me," he whispered, his icy gaze burning through the man. "But your daughter, she carries the voice I never had." The father's chest tightened, fear and guilt colliding inside him. And for the first time, He realized this meeting was no accident. The father's throat went dry, his grip on his daughter faltering. "What are you saying?" he demanded, though his voice cracked under the weight of his own dread. The stranger's eyes gleamed with something cold, something ancient. He leaned closer, the shadows of the trees wrapping around him like a cloak. "Your father, the great man you worship. He wasn't as noble as you remember." The words slashed the silence like a blade. The little girl's eyes widened, her small hand tugging at her father's sleeve. But the man kept speaking, his voice low, relentless. "He built his empire on lies, and I was the price he paid. Forgotten, erased, buried in silence. Until now." The father staggered back, his mind spinning, his chest heaving. The park felt suffocating, as though the earth itself had turned against him. And in the trembling light of the setting sun, the stranger whispered the words that shattered everything. "Your daughter carries what he tried to destroy. The truth." The father's heart pounded in his chest, louder than the wind rustling through the trees. He shielded his daughter, but the stranger did not move closer. He didn't need to. The little girl's hand, small and trembling, slipped from her father's grip. Her eyes locked onto the man's, and for the first time, she whispered a word, one that froze the blood in her father's veins. "Home." The stranger's lips curled into a shadow of a smile, but his eyes were wet with something deeper, grief, rage, and recognition. "She remembers," he murmured, his voice breaking like glass. The father stumbled back, confusion tearing through him. His daughter had never spoken, not once, and yet here she was, her voice carrying a weight older than her years. The stranger's gaze turned cold once more. "You can hide from me, but you cannot hide from what she is." And as the park fell silent, the truth pressed heavier than the night. The girl's silence had not been weakness. It had been waiting. The father's breath came sharp, unsteady. His daughter's small fingers still clutched the hem of his coat, but suddenly she felt like a stranger. Home. That one word spun in his mind like a curse. He had raised her, loved her, protected her from the world, yet she had spoken not to him, but to the man in the shadows. His voice trembled, breaking the silence. "Who are you?" "What are you to her?" The stranger did not answer. His gaze shifted only to the girl, whose wide eyes glistened as though she knew him in a way no child should. Know a man she had never met. The father's chest ached with a fear greater than death itself. Doubt. A cruel, poisonous doubt. Had she been his all along? Or had she only ever been borrowed from a story he did not yet understand? The stranger stepped forward, and the ground itself seemed to lean toward him. "Ask yourself," he said coldly, "if she was ever truly yours." The world slowed. The park faded. Only the girl's eyes remained, deep, endless pools that shimmered with a knowledge far too ancient for a child. She raised her hand, trembling, and pointed to the stranger. Her lips parted, but no sound came, just the echo of 1,000 unsaid words, pressing against her silence. The father fell to his knees beside her. "Speak to me, please. If you can speak to him, you can speak to me." His voice cracked, raw with desperation. The girl turned, her gaze soft but unyielding, and for the first time, her mouth shaped a sound. Not to her father, not to the world, but to the man cloaked in shadows. One fragile whisper, yet it struck like thunder. "I know you." The father's heart shattered, his breath stolen. How could she know him? And why? Why did it feel as though she had always belonged to him? The father froze, his mind clawing for reason, for explanation, but the stranger only stepped closer, the shadows parting as the light revealed his face. And in that instant, the father's world collapsed. Those same icy blue eyes, the same face buried in the deepest corner of his past. The man he thought erased, the man he thought destroyed. The girl's whisper cut through the silence once more. "You're the one who's been waiting for me." The father staggered back, rage and terror colliding. "No, it's impossible. You can't be here." But the stranger only smiled, calm, certain, as if destiny itself had written this moment. "She was never yours to keep," he said softly, "only yours to protect. Until now." The girl reached out, small hand trembling, caught between the two men. And in that breathless second, the truth that had been buried for years rose like a storm, ready to tear their world apart.